Hey everybody! Well, we're finally here. It's the last round of the AFLW season for 2025, and as you might notice, I have the jacket back on because we've just been randomly hit by a cold snap here in Canberra, and it's absolutely freezing tonight. But regardless, I'm gonna still tough it out so we can get through our last ever round predictions before we enter the final series. So, without further ado, let's look at how it went with round 11, and we start with the game. I'm still in disbelief. We won the showdown, and I got the margin correct. I just got the winner incorrect, but still, I guess if I'm complaining, we won a freaking showdown. That was amazing. But regardless, we've got a few other games of the round to talk about, and we're going to start with another game. We got the margin right, but the winner wrong because a Ella Robertless West Coast just got absolutely crushed by Sydney. I know I was watching the game and they were constantly like West Coast was looking like they were going to make a comeback, but the reality is they never did, and Sydney won pretty easy. Then we had Hawthorn taking on a Bombers outfit, where once again they probably could have won by a lot more because Essendon they just looked washed, and Hawthorn went to 30, which I think might be better than their win against Gold Coast in terms of the margin. But regardless, I had Freo winning by 8, and they won by 44. Oh my goodness! I thought you think Essendon or Richmond is even like the Sash teams this season have just been horrible. It's been not very fun to watch, unfortunately. But regardless, the game I did get the margin mostly right was Brisbane. I had them winning by 4. They won by 9. They probably would have won by a lot more if they kicked straight, but you're definitely going to be worried for Melbourne because Brisbane is probably going to be a qualifying opponent come finals. But regardless, I had Geelong winning by 13 and they won by 11. So again, really pretty close, but yeah, I have a Bulldogs friend who definitely was not happy with that game. Definitely a wet weather monstrosity. But regardless, I had North Melbourne winning by 30 and they won by 46. And to think there were some people that were like thinking that St Kilda might win this game. Oh dear. But regardless, I had Carlton winning by 10 and they won by 46. Again, this might have been a game that would have won by more, but for some reason after the lightning break, GWS came out and actually played somewhat decent footy for a bit, which narrowed the margin down, which sucks the Carlton, who definitely wants to build a bit of a percentage buffer. But regardless, the final game of the round, I had Collingwood winning by 5 and they won by 15. And Suns win the wooden spoon in a pretty horrendous looking football game. Yeah, that was a pretty bad football game to watch. But regardless, here it is, guys. The final round predictions. And we start with a pretty solid game. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne. For some reason, they're going to hold this amazing matchup at Kinetic Stadium, but regardless. So obviously, this game holds importance for two reasons. One is Hawthorn and North Melbourne have never played. And the second is, this was the game that I think a lot of people... This is actually what people thought the grand final was going to be last year, based on how Hawthorn was second and North was first. But obviously, we never got to see it. We never actually got to see the two teams meet in finals regardless. So they're finally meeting here this weekend, and... it is exciting because obviously Hawthorn have been a pretty strong team this year. Sure, they've had the injuries. Sure, they haven't been able to kick straight, but they haven't really lost many games outside of the games they put against us and the game against Adelaide. But obviously, we obviously know that North Melbourne's probably going to still win this game. But the question is, can Hawthorn give them the big challenge that like no other team has? I'm edging towards no, just how much we bet them, and obviously North is better than us. So I think North's going to win by 30. But the other big question we want to talk about is how the goals go, because obviously Garner and Bogue are both likely to kick a goal or two this game. So the question is, are they going to overtake Indy, and does Indy need to kick a few goals herself in our game on the Saturday to stay ahead? I don't know. And obviously, I think is that Aileen McDonough for the Hawks is also potentially in the top running, so we'll see how those players go and whether or not Indy sort of wins without even needing to kick a goal on Saturday. But we'll come to that later because there's actually a second game to talk about on Friday, and that's West Coast versus Carlton at Sullivan's Logistics Stadium at 9:15 p.m. Jeez, it's a late game, but regardless. So interestingly, the odds are for Carlton to win this game, which again feels weird because there's multiple times these teams keep tipping against West Coast at home, but West Coast hasn't lost a home game, and it's for this reason I feel like West Coast is a stronger team, especially if Ella Roberts is back. It seemed like she just had a minor niggle and that prevented her playing on last weekend. So she should be back in the team, and you think they're going to play. And unfortunately, if they beat Carlton, which I expect them to do, that's going to be the end of Port Adelaide's attempt at a finals dream because there'll be no path to finals left, which will be unfortunate. But that's what I'm going to predict. I'm going to predict West Coast by 15, but I'm really going to hope that Carlton can defy my prediction and win. So please, Carlton, make my prediction wrong. But regardless, the reason why is obviously we got GWS versus Port Adelaide, Henson Park on the Saturday at 1:05. Again, this depending on how the West Coast game goes, this could be our chance to get into the top eight. But if we want to get to the top eight, we're definitely going to need to win by a big margin. We're going to need to kick a lot of goals. I'm talking like a 60 plus margin. So obviously, if we are kicking big, which I'm hoping we will, because GWS has looked pretty weak, and based on the win against Carlton last week, we can definitely kick a lot of goals. Hoping I'm not going to eat those words. But if we are able to kick a lot of goals, can Houghton and Tahoe get those margins up? Obviously, this might be Houghton's last chance to reach 100 before anyone else if she can kick 4 goals. And if Tahoe can just kick her normal 2, she will happily I think easily outright win the leading goal kicker. And also, we might have Teagle coming back, so we might even have a third tall in there kicking even more goals. Hopefully, if Teagle is back, she's not stealing goals from Houghton and Tahoe that we need to get their margins up. But regardless, I'll have Port Adelaide winning by 50. I know I'm normally need to tip against us in these games, but I feel like I need to actually do a proper tip this time, and hopefully I haven't jinxed it now, but come on, let's win this one big, and let's see if we can actually get a jump, even if we only in 8th spot for just that Saturday afternoon. It will be fun, because we do obviously have a game coming up that can also sink our chances for finals, but before then, we need to look at Richmond versus Gold Coast. Once again, it's Gold Coast's 4th ever spoon ball. I think it was us, and then it was GWS, and then it was Collingwood last week, and now it's Richmond for another spoonball game, 17th versus 18th. Yeah, well, obviously, I don't think this game's going to be as horrible as last week. I think Richmond's a lot better than Collingwood. And it's for this reason that I think you'll actually see Richmond actually play some decent footy, which they haven't done all year, and you actually get a decent game from them. And it's for this reason I think Richmond's going to win by 30. I think Gold Coast, Essendon, they're kind of washed. They just could not mark the ball last week or kick a goal if their life depended on it. And it's for that reason that I'm feeling pretty confident that Richmond's going to win this one relatively easy, and hopefully Gold Coast can rebuild for a stronger campaign next year. As we get into the afternoon, we have Sydney versus Essendon at CEX Coffs Stadium in Coffs Harbour. So, obviously, last time these teams met, I think Essendon won, but I think we're definitely looking a lot more positive on Sydney, even though, like the West Coast Carlton game, I desperately need Essendon to win this one, and potentially by a large margin. Essendon have not won a game since round 3 this year. They won the first 3 games, and then they just have not won a thing. And they haven't even really looked close to winning a thing. The Dogs smashed them, and so did the Hawks. And so you come to this Sydney-Essendon game and go, is there any chance? Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think even if Sydney doesn't have Chloe Malloy, which, by the way, good news for Tahoe and the Goodling goal kicker, but bad news for Sydney fans. But even without Malloy, I don't think Sydney's going to be too hampered. They've got a nice, decent run of forwards and stuff. I think they're going to easily win by 18. Finally, on the Saturday, we have Geelong versus Melbourne at GMHBA Stadium. So last of the 2 teams, I think it was Melbourne 2 years ago, and the odds are definitely for Melbourne. Obviously, Melbourne's been a strong team all year. Even their games they've lost, it's been by pretty narrow margins. They only lost to Brisbane by 9. I think that was the biggest margin they lost by all year. So, look, Geelong, I think a lot of people have been talking about Geelong, but I feel like they've been really overrated. They're going to wind up sort of what they did last year in the sort of 10th spot. I actually think they're going to finish worse this year. And for this reason, I think Melbourne's going to easily take him out by, 24. Probably not a huge margin, but still pretty comfortable. All right, the Sunday games, and oh no. Collingwood versus Brisbane at Victoria Park, 1:05. How is Collingwood 14th at the moment? They've just because they got given 3 of the weakest teams in the competition, they somehow managed to jump up to 14th. But I think after Brisbane runs through them, they'll be probably winding up more 16th, because this game's going to be a bloodbath. I think Brisbane's going to win pretty easy, because obviously Brisbane wants one to get up for a finals campaign. Collingwood just wants the season to be over. So let's say Brisbane by 40. All right, St Kilda versus the Western Bulldogs, RSCA Park, Sunday 3:05. Um, last night, I think the Bulldogs won. All right, that was in Ballarat. I think I remember watching that game. But the odds, meanwhile, are for St Kilda because St Kilda's obviously one that looks like to get their winning streak back after their loss to North Melbourne. They probably would if they didn't play North Melbourne. It'll be on a 9-game winning streak. But could the Dogs give them a run for the money else? The Dogs have been bullies, beating up a lot of the weaker teams, but can they beat a solid team like St Kilda? I think they can, but just because the fact I've seen St Kilda beat teams like Carlton, I'm feeling more positive on them, and I think St Kilda will win by 10. All right, the final game of the home and away season, it's Adelaide versus Fremantle. Norwood Oval, 5:05 on the Sunday. And this will be an interesting game because it's basically looking like the winner of this game will be in finals and the loser will not. And but for this reason, I'm definitely thinking Adelaide looks like the stronger team. Obviously, Adelaide's got to be annoyed that they lost to us and North before then. Fremantle obviously is coming off a solid win against Richmond, but yeah, you just feel like Adelaide's the more talented team. Like Free's been very kind of unreliable this year, sort of beating up on the weaker teams and not being able to take it to the stronger. Although I guess they did beat Melbourne, so maybe, but the Freo that beats Melbourne shows up so rarely that you just can't trust them to show up. So it's for this reason I think Adelaide's going to win. Because remember, the last time two teams met was the semi-final where Freo, I think, kicked one goal the whole game. So it's for this reason I think Adelaide will win. But let's say it's not by a huge amount, it's by 13. So to go through my last round predictions, we have North Melbourne by 30, West Coast by 15, and to crush my dreams, Port Adelaide by 50, Richmond by 30, Sydney by 18 and to also crush my dreams, Melbourne by 24, Brisbane by 40, St Kilda by 10 and Adelaide by 13. Alright guys, it's Hail Mary time. Can Port Adelaide somehow make finals? Probably not, but I'll still be there on Saturday at Henson Park shouting, "Let's go Power!"